Right, Pete, so back again, and we've got quite a bit to talk about today because a lot's been going on. It's only 36 hours since the deadline, and already it's been chaos, especially on Twitter, more so than on the football pitch. But, even that's been bad. I mean, a lot of you tuned in to watch Arsenal today, didn't you? And then surprised to see that Gabriel wasn't playing. Well, some of you, or a lot of you, wouldn't have been surprised. Those of you that go on Twitter, you wouldn't have been surprised because people knew 24 hours ago that Gabriel wasn't playing. But most people didn't. So we'll be talking about that later. And we're going to be talking about price changes today. I'm going to have to show you the price change site, although most of you probably go to it anyway. And we'll have a quick look and see early trends. And we're going to have a look into the gambling ads again, because you remember we did all that a few weeks ago when we were campaigning for Scout to remove those plucky adverts, and they didn't want to do it and they were blocking people, etc. And now, because of their stupidity and the way they handled it, it's now all over the UK newspapers, it's been on TV and everything. And so we're going to have a quick look at that. And we're also going to have a look at Reddit as well, because I don't know if you use the Reddit communities a lot, but there's also quite a lot of dissatisfaction over there as well with the way things are going. So we're going to have a look, and it won't take too long, peeps. Anyway, here's my team. I did what I said I was going to do. I started with Jackson, and I started with Gabriel too, because I was one of the people who didn't know beforehand that he wasn't going to play, so I got stuck with him. And if Saliba hadn't lost his clean sheet against Forest, then Saliba probably would have got 12 points, and that would have been an 11-point swing in favour of people that had an unfair advantage over the millions of the rest of us. So I'm not sure any of us want that FPL to be played that way, do we? When I said to you I was really looking forward to this season, I really have been. I was looking forward to getting back to my old methods and that. But what I didn't realise is that now there's an added element to playing this game. It has nothing to do with prices. It has nothing to do with picking players. It has everything to do with who you know rather than what you know and what leaks you can get hold of. If you know people that are working at Premier League clubs, etc., you can get early access 24 hours before the kick-off, in some cases knowing who's going to start. People know who blooming Pep's going to play before even Pep knows. It's that bad. Probably typing up Pep's cat, to find out who's starting or not at the weekend, and it's just ridiculous, I said last night I was on the verge of deleting my team last night because the season had just started, and already I was at a disadvantage to all these other people that had had access to these early team leaks, and it just left a real sour taste. It was this was before a ball had even been kicked, so I wasn't happy, and a lot of other people weren't happy too. But we'll talk about that later, once my blood pressure's dropped a bit, and we'll see how I get on, because it really has wound me up. It's ruined my enjoyment of the first weekend. I think I was talking to Lynn last night, and I said it's really, I said I can't be bothered watching the Arsenal game after this. It's just too annoying to have to sit there and watch Saliba get points for people who never even had him in their team in the first place until 2 minutes before the deadline. And it's just totally unfair, They'll argue against it, because a lot of people on Twitter are the ones that are doing it. Everyone's getting an unfair advantage over other people. So you should get up at 3 a.m. and do it. It's your own fault. That's their argument. A lot of them can get stuffed, in my opinion. It's fucking ridiculous. Right, so first off, we're going to look at the price change site. Hang on, peeps, hang on. I better have a drink, because it's a nice, relaxing, soft drink. No alcohol or gambling in this drink. No price, no leaks either, hopefully. We don't want a wet computer. Right, so this is the price change site. It's not owned by FPL or anything. It's an independent site. Been there for years and years and years and years. This is the one I used to use way back when. I used to spend hours every day on here, checking it every hour, seeing what percentage of players have moved, etc. And every day the prices change. I think it's about 1 a.m. UK time. It varies on the clocks, because I think it's run from another country probably. But Yeah, it changes once a day. It's one area actually where New Zealand people have actually got a slight advantage because it changes about 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. So I can like go on there at midday, have a look and see if anything's about to fall in price, and jump on and make the necessary changes. Whereas people in the UK are in bed, so it's their turn to miss out. Right, so this is, I better get onto the screen. Let's have a look. Right, so this is it here. So you've got the quite self-explanatory: player, club, position, status, percentage ownership, the price, amount of changes this week. So far there are none. It changed about an hour ago, I think, and nothing changed. And this delta is the net transfers needed for a price change. So I think you like look at the price, look at the transfers in, take away the transfers out, and that kind of gives you how many have actually headed towards 46,000 for Rodri it needs. And this blue arrow is how fast they're going up. So you get what you either get 3 arrows, 2 arrows, or 1 arrow. Because it's a time of night when not many people are about. There are nothing on 3 arrows at the moment. But we can see that Rodri is always already up to 56%. Now when they get to 100%, that's when they can change. I mean, this algorithm, it normally takes a week or two to really hone in on what FPL are doing, because every year it's tweaked slightly depending on the number of people playing, etc. And so it's never 100% accurate. But if something gets near 100%, you've got to start thinking it might change in price. That's 100 up and 100 down. So you can see Rodri here, 56%. A lot of people buying him because he's got points. I don't think he's a very good asset to buy particularly. If he was 5 million, he might be worth being your fifth midfielder that stays on the bench for all but easy fixtures. Because he tends to play most of the time, doesn't he? And but he's not that. I mean, I know he scored in the Champions League final, didn't he? And at the weekend, but he's not good enough to start, I think, in your team, and he's too expensive to leave on your bench. Right, Saka, Isaac looked good, didn't he? Newcastle looked good, didn't they look good? You wouldn't see that coming, would you? 5 goals. I think everyone in the FPL community pretty much ignored Newcastle because of their fixtures. Saliba, he's going up because Gabriel's out. So that's the other thing. See, those people, not only did they get the points advantage yesterday from knowing that inside information, they've also saved themselves a transfer, because a lot of us are probably going to have to get rid of Gabriel now. And it's quite despicable the way people they're all crowing and laughing at the Gabriel owners, and it just creates a very toxic atmosphere on Twitter on match day. It really is. It's a cesspit, that place sometimes. It's fun, but really is a cesspool. Right, Ake going up because he got points. Haaland. Now Rashford hasn't even played yet, and he's getting quite a few new owners. I mean, why they're doing it now? I mean, if you're going to buy Rashford, at least wait until he played his game. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some people, they don't even realise that tomorrow's games or today's games are even not counted. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people have never played it before. They're like me. I went and logged on and made a team for the Bundesliga fantasy earlier, see what price Kane was and that. And I made a team, but I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. You know, and that'd be a lot same with a lot of people with FPL. So the early price moves, etc., are very irrational. Very irrational. So it can be quite annoying. You know, you can have a player with a good fixture that is really silly for anyone to sell, and lots of people sell him, and their price falls, and you think, why have I been forced to act? Because all these idiots are doing silly things on a Sunday. People just wait. If everyone just waited, there'd be no need to make any early transfers. So we've got Estupiñán going up. He looked good, didn't he? Pedro going up. But to me, Luton look absolute rubbish, and Brighton could have got 8 goals. But then again, I think other teams are going to be in the same boat. Like Chelsea, I've got to have 3 Chelsea for that game. Right, we'll see De Bruyne. So this is why Rashford is going up, because a lot of people selling De Bruyne. Now, De Bruyne actually is an example of where early team leaks hurt people because a lot of people, everybody knew about an hour before the deadline even, what the City lineup was. You all knew that Stones wasn't playing, so people took John Stones out, who would have otherwise had him in their team, because they'd had him in there for the whole pre-season. So they got a warning, whereas everyone else who was at a wedding or out at work or whatever missed out. The vast majority of people missed out, and a few thousand on Twitter took advantage. And De Bruyne was another one they took advantage of, because a lot of people saw he was playing and they put him in. And it backfired because he went off injured, didn't he, after about 25 minutes. Pep really stuffed up. I think that's why he was even grumpier than me on during that game, because it was his own fault. It was Pep's fault, I think. I mean, De Bruyne himself said he wasn't ready to come back from injury. I know what our hamstrings are like, and next thing he's done his hammy again. So these ones going down aren't so reliable, because you notice a lot of them, nearly all of them, are people that are injured, like Jesus, Martial, and Kanku, Buendia. And what it is people have made teams weeks ago. They've come back after the deadline, realised they haven't changed their team, and now they're getting rid of all the players that were in their auto drafts. And that's why they're all being sold. So if we want to see proper players that are getting sold, we have to do a search. So I think we're going to see what Gabriel's up to, because that's the one I'm interested in this week. We're going to have to keep an eye on him. We don't want to get into minus 100. Well, he's only minus 5.8%. And because he's got quite high ownership. Look at that. And he's 328,000 transfers out before his price is going to drop. That's a lot of transfers. A lot of transfers. And with Timber being injured, I think there's a lot more chance that Gabriel will play anyway next week. To me, that experiment that he did with his lineup, it didn't really work. Arsenal went as free-flowing as last season. I don't know if he'll repeat that again. You know, he's got these new players and he's trying to find ways to accommodate them all in that. Just put that prick Havertz on the bench and keep Timber and just play the same team they had last year with Trossard on the bench, because you know, that's a good enough team. I don't know if Hazard's improving the team or not. I can't work it out. Rice looks decent, but Hazard, I don't know. I keep calling him fucking Havertz. Right. Very tired, peeps. 3 hours sleep since deadline, and that was 36 hours ago. So I don't want to go to bed now. I want to go to bed about 8 o'clock tonight and then get up and watch the 2 games tonight. I think one's about 2 in the morning here and the other one's at 4:30 in the morning. But that's all good. Right, let's see. I want to watch Chelsea. I'm really looking forward to that game. Been looking forward to that for weeks. Hopefully it's a cracker. Right, so what are we doing now? We're going to have to talk about this because you remember a few weeks ago I came on and told you all about Scout and how they'd been advertising a company that was against the terms and conditions of FPL because they advertised paid mini leagues, and how one of the members one of the people on Twitter had asked them a simple question, asked Scout whether their company they're advertising was against the terms and conditions, and instead of dialoguing with him, they just blocked him. And that has led to this whole chain of events that has ended up with Scout on the newspapers in the UK, on the television in the UK, and it's really put the spotlight all over the gambling in FPL. And like Scout would turn around and blame us and say it's just people that are jealous of their success that are leading this campaign against them, against the big content creators. It's absolute garbage. They brought this entire thing on themselves. If they'd just been honest from the start, had a bit of dialogue, the whole thing would have gone away, and that would have been that. But instead, they chose to block people. This person who then went and reported them to the FPL because he wasn't happy at being blocked. When FPL looked into it, they advised people not to, under any circumstances, enter any paid mini leagues. Yet for 3 entire days, 3 days, peeps, Scout kept that advert up there. And basically did not communicate with the community, no feedback whatsoever, and then they wonder why the general FPL community is not happy with the paid section of content creation that's on at the moment, with its AI, its leaks, its blooming data breaches, you name it, they're doing it. They're advertising, their shady practices, spamming the forums for clicks. Now they can get paid for impressions on Twitter, and it's just completely ruining the community. And now I get them come up to me and say, "Well, what's the problem? It's our job. We've got to earn a living." I mean, you could say the same about someone selling drugs on a street corner, couldn't you? I'm just growing opium. It's not my fault if people are taking it over in Europe. It's just bloody ridiculous. Honestly, it really gets on my goat. So, what they haven't done is own it. They should have said, yes, we're in the wrong, but they can't seem to understand why it's all over the papers. I'll tell you why it is, peeps, because me and a few other people contacted a journalist and gave them the story, and now it's all over the BBC, BBC News. Need the Chimes, News at 10, or is that ITV? News at 10, isn't it, with the Big Ben? But these jokers are all over it. But it's not their fault they're being picked on because they're so successful. It's absolute fucking bollocks. All right, let's have a look here. Gambling industries targeting FPL, which it is, because it's a very good fit. Because, people that play FPL, they watch football all day, etc. They're going to be males, 30-year-old males and all that, and prime juicy target for the predatory gambling companies. We know all this already. We talked about this the other day, didn't we? And the Wire has removed their ads as a result of the findings. So the Wire have obviously got back to these people, because even after Scout had removed their ads, I went to watch the Wire, and they had an advert on for a similar one of these mini league things. So I went to them, and in fairness, the next week they'd taken it down and they'd put out an advert for something else instead of a gambling advert. So they've done the right thing eventually. And what else has happened? Oh yeah, FPL General wasn't very happy yesterday. He's got his mugshot. He's got his mugshot all over the papers. So he looks like he should have one of those police numbers in front of him, doesn't he? But but he was just a guest on their show, and now he's been tarred with the same brush. He's got his face all over the papers, and so he wasn't happy with that. So he's got in touch with them, and now they've made a little concession there, saying that he was only a guest on the show and had no control over the advertising. But the thing is, he knows what they advertise. He knows they're advertising gambling, yet he agrees to be a guest on their show. So he's not entirely innocent in that respect. Right, what have we got? Game is run by Premier League, but all their content creators are independent. So they can't, rein them in so easily. And they're talking about Scout and their ads, etc. And MPs piped up and going on about being children. Caroline Harris MP finds the findings are deeply shocking to her, but to the people, to the content creators, it's like, why are you making us? Why are you fucking hounding us? Then they send out people to try and shut me down, shut other people down, discredit us. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Let's do the right thing. Fuck's sake. Right, Plucky's there, our old mate Plucky. And goes on about all sorts of stuff, peeps. You've seen enough of that. But if you want to see it, just go and type in gambling FPL and you'll get a link to the article. And another thing, we'll have a quick look at Reddit, because we don't often go to Reddit, do we? It's like they've got their own community there. And we'll have a quick look at that. So Stones and Gabrielle, people complaining. Nearly 1 million people had Stones and Gabrielle. Obviously people that weren't privy to the leaks, because if they were, they wouldn't have had either of them, and they'd have a lot more points than they've got now, probably. So what else have we got here? Benching tactical, says Arteta. Arsenal kept 4 clean sheets in 19 home games last season. There's an article about that. Not very many, is it? Might be an unpopular opinion, but wouldn't it be better if there were no leaks? Well, I wouldn't have thought it would be an unpopular opinion when probably 50,000 at the most have taken advantage of the leaks, and the other 8 million have missed out on them. So, you wonder why Twitter people finish so high up every year. I'll tell you what, I mean, FPL used to be about picking the right players, looking after the finance, etc. It was like I said to you last week, I was really excited for this season. What I didn't realise that's changed is that now it's not so much what you know, it's who you know that's important. You've got people getting leaks 24 hours in advance of a game because they're so big in the streaming community that they're now friends with people at the clubs, etc. And are getting given leaks days in advance of who's in the starting lineup and not. We saw it yesterday. And if that happens, even if it only happens 3 or 4 times a season, and they get like an extra 5 or 10 points each time, that's like 40 or 50 extra points over other people. And it's just wrong. It's just totally wrong. But I mean, I was talking to Mike Southerns about it this morning, but like he said, what can you do? You can't stop these big in the know accounts on Twitter from, because they're all after huge amounts of clicks, and people are going to click on it regardless whether Andy's spreading the news or not. So it's very difficult. We talked about moving the deadline, but even if you move it back 3 or 4 hours, you're still going to get the leaks because the clubs generally know which players are going to start the day before, don't they? I think the only way is just to move it to the deadline, and then at least that cuts out a lot of the short-term links, the ones that turn up like an hour and 10 minutes before the games. But I mean, again, that's going to disadvantage people overseas unless they get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So what can you do? I play in New Zealand leagues, and most people are missing out on all this stuff at a disadvantage. So then you get these content creators crowing because they've finished in 10,000th place or whatever, like they won the fucking World Cup. And even that's with all these leaks and everything else, all these unfair advantages that they've got. It's just ridiculous, honestly. It drives me insane. It's not it is. It's just not right. It's ruining the game. And it's all driven by greed. Greed. Well, so here he is, look. I'll talk about him actually. Right, here's one. Let's see what we got here. Fantasy Football Hub is a scam. Let's organise. This is another thing. Like, they go on about a few people were hounding the content creators, etc. But it's not a few people. The entire community is thoroughly sick of it. Everything, the AI, the paid team reveals, everything, the whole shady way they operate, they don't communicate with people. So what have we got here? This post is intended to gauge interest in group action against Fantasy Football Hub, the premium FPL service that advertise an advantage over your competitors. Disclaimer. Yes, I'm a fool for forking out money. I really enjoy FPL and thought this would be a way to save some time searching for stats and insights. Well, I'll tell you what, Pete. He is a fool because you don't give these twits money. We've seen that in the past. Been known for years to avoid them, but they're still catching people unawares. In recent weeks, I've experienced frequent bugs and outages when using Fantasy Football Hub on mobile and desktop. In the past 24 hours, it's reached a point of being entirely unusable. Fair enough, start of the season, all the servers are crashing, the game servers are crashing. But then this is where it gets bad. Typical blooming hub. I've attempted to contact the company through almost every avenue imaginable, yet have yet to hear back from them regarding my request for a refund, given their inability to provide the promised service product. Well, that's what happens to these sort of people. They're easy to contact when you want to give them money, but when you want to take money out or get a refund, they suddenly disappear. We saw this with a hack 2 years ago. When I knew they'd been hacked, instead of telling the community that a lot of the people in the community had their passwords compromised. Instead, they decided to hide the fact and pretend that it wasn't a problem, stick their heads in the sand. And for 2 or 3 days, people were getting their sites hacked and having their passwords compromised because they didn't warn anybody. Eventually, it all came out, and then they were in the shit, and you had them on doing videos crying and stuff. It was all a complete utter shambles. Shambles. But it looks like they haven't improved. Why are you picking on Hub? Fuck's sake. Right. Ever since the data leak, don't go anywhere near them. This is what people are saying. Can't understand why people still trust them with their details. Most of the FPL info is free anyway. You can just stay on Reddit and you get all the info you need, to be honest. And even the FPL site itself now has got statistics on shots on target and all that sort of stuff. Don't know if you knew that, peeps. What else have we got? I thought this was widely known in the FPL community. People are new players, gullible, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. And it just goes on. Lots and lots of people not happy. And I can see why. The whole blooming thing. I nearly deleted my team last night. It wasn't because of this gambling business. It was because of the all the business with the leaks. Because first off, the City one, it's more understandable because the game's only, like I think it's an hour and a half before the game. The site shuts down. But people knew like about an hour before that Stones wasn't playing and that Foden was playing and De Bruyne was playing. Everybody knew. Everyone on Twitter knew. And what they didn't know was that Gabriel, who was playing on the Saturday, wasn't playing. Somebody knew. Andy from Andy FPL, he knew. And he told his subscribers 6 minutes before the deadline, just enough time for them all to go and log on, change their teams, but not long enough for the general community to find out and for them to all change their teams. So he timed it perfectly, just before the deadline. And when it's the deadline, when it was the match was 24 hours away, it's a bit of a coincidence, but that happened 6 minutes before the deadline. He made a big thing of it on his show. He even put a little smiley on there afterwards saying, "I never said he was injured." Like a cheeky little grin, because he knew he wasn't injured, because he knew everything. He knew perfectly well that he wasn't playing because of tactical reasons. He knew it all. He'd obviously got info from some Arsenal insider who was leaking stuff that's not meant to be in the public domain, and he'd used that material for his own benefit by putting it on his stream, because he knows perfectly well that now every single week everyone's going to have to glue into his live stream before the deadline to see who's playing and who isn't, because now we all know that Andy's got this inside info. He even said he didn't want to tell anybody who the source was because he wouldn't be able to get any future info. And to me, it's all very, very shady, because none of the rest of us have got access to it. People in this part of the world, people in Asia, all over the place that are asleep during these hours. And even if you're not, you should not have to go into somebody's stream who's passing on information not meant to be out there in the first place, and giving people an unfair advantage over everybody else. It really is off. The ball hadn't been kicked. And we've got this, once again, content creator, shady business greed going on, since FPL's just become too monetized now. And even the people that spread the leaks are getting in on it. They're probably getting paid to spread leaks, and it's just a joke. In Australia with the NRL, where teams have to give their final lineup midweek, who they're playing, because Australian authorities don't want betting scandals, etc. So the clubs have to actually say who's playing at the weekend. And if they change their mind over anything, then everyone has to be informed. But not so in the Premier League, because they like to keep all their tactics, except, even the managers lie, don't they, at their press conferences, etc. And it's all very annoying, to be honest. It's ruining the game. That's one thing I do agree with Mark on. He was saying it was a scourge or whatever. It is. it's very, very disappointing that before a ball's even been kicked, you're like 10 points worse off than other people who are in the know. And you try and point it out, and it's just sour grape. They're going, "Oh, it's just sour grapes because you didn't know," etc. Well, fucking about 7 or 8 million people don't know, and it's tricky because it's spoiling the game, but it's also very difficult to control. You can't really control people leaking. But what you should better control is a streamer who's doing FPL content openly, taking information that isn't meant to be in the public domain and broadcasting it to people. There should be something to stop that type of thing. I mean, you can't stop people texting each other, etc., etc. But when you're doing it to like hundreds of thousands of people, giving information that's not meant to be out there, and to me, that's not right. So I was really disillusioned after that. So by the time it came to watching any football, I had a guts of it all. So I'm still thinking now, I'm looking at my team and I've got Gabriel in it. I'm thinking, we'll get it back. It's only 1 week. It's the first week's the worst one because that's when people don't own players. So when there's leaks, they can just go and grab whoever they want for nothing. But once the season started, they'd have to actually make the decision to transfer somebody out for a hit or whatever on the basis of a leak. You're less likely to do it then. But it's really not good. It isn't good at all. So, like I said, it's left me feeling a little disillusioned with the whole thing. There's been so many arguments and that on Twitter about it all, and the gambling stuff as well. But I've had a guts of it. I'm not having anything more to do with it now. We got the win with the gambling. It's all over the papers. It's out there now. Other people can deal with it all. But I'm sure the big sites are going to change the narrative, and with a couple of weeks, they'll be acting like they're the good guys. They'll come up with some initiative to save face and make it look like they're all anti-gambling. But whatever. But anyway, peeps, I've had enough. I've had a gutser. I'm going to have some food. Mrs. will be home soon. I'm going to have some food and have a nudie night. I'll go to bed about 8 o'clock, get up at 1 o'clock, and start a process all over again. Because there's a lot of fun, isn't it, really? The bigger the shit show, the bigger the mess, the more entertaining it all is, isn't it? But sometimes it can be a bit too much, It really can be. It's not right, is it? What's the way it's going? Because it never used to be like this. It used to be about picking your players, studying, and etc. Now it's about copying someone's team, looking at an AI, then going on Twitter before the deadline to find out who's playing, who's not playing, getting advantage over all the other people, and then go onto Twitter and cry about how you got someone in at the last minute and other people didn't. Like you've done well, and all you've done is cheat everybody else, really. Anyway, peeps, I'm off now. Have a good day anyway. Enjoy it if you can. And if you haven't, you just found out that everyone's been ripping you off, don't be too surprised. It's been going on for years and years. We only found out because of Twitter. But even before Twitter, the people at the top used to get the embargoed news from the journalists, etc., and never spread it. And it's funny how the Scout have got a website where people pay to go on, but they never put the early leaks on there, do they? So all the members on there can see. So you know what I mean? The people that are paying. It's just on the streams, etc. Anyway, peeps, I've had enough. I'm going now, and I'll talk to you all later. If you liked it, like.